The old man fancies that obedience is incompatible with his freedom. By freedom, he means to be able to do and to omit to do whatever his lower self suggests. The immortal, however, joyfully accepts the immutable laws of the universe as a reasonable and equitable order, and brings his thoughts and actions in accordance with it. Therein lies the true freedom. The loftiest freedom can be realized in the supermundane world, where laws are understood as a beautiful and immutable reality. Obedience to the law, by love for law and order, gives highest freedom to the soul. Once again, Goethe has found the appropriate words. Not that makes us free, that we do not want to recognize anything above us, but, on the contrary, that we worship something that is above us. For by worshipping it, we rise up to it and reveal through our recognition of it that we ourselves bear the higher within us and are worthy to be its equal. Cosmos does not work according to desire, but according to necessity. The torrent is rushing on, not because of its own desire, but because of an inevitability born of necessity. He who sees the observance of the cosmic rules and necessities as a restriction of his freedom does not yet understand the order of the world. It should be remembered that freedom requires a high discipline, and those who manifest disorder and confusion cannot be regarded as free. If you do not adapt to necessity, you must fail. What is success, if not the effect of the correct application of the law? Really free you are only when you realize the laws of existence are unchangeable. Whoever does not comply with them will be forced to do so one day by sheer grief. Therefore, it is better to voluntarily accept them as a just order, and to bring one's individual will in harmony with a global plan. Man imagines that his will is unrestricted and begins to violate the fundamental laws. But the will is of value only when it is strictly in harmony with the laws of life. Most people do not understand this for to them the will is equivalent to willfulness. But a wise man knows that will and freedom can live only in safeguarding lawfulness. Of course, you have a free will, but that only means you have at any given moment the option to practice it in accordance or in conflict with the higher will. The point is that the will may be harmonious with the higher forces, or it may be chaotic and working against construction. Freedom of will is a prerogative of man, but without harmony with the higher forces, it becomes a misfortune. We can actually, seemingly paradoxically, say obedience is the price of freedom. Freedom is the release of the soul from the ancient bondage of the lower self. Having paid the price demanded by the higher self, by perfect obedience to the law it has previously broken, the soul is free indeed, free of all things save the law. And having become one with the law, through that perfect obedience, it is its own lawmaker thereafter. The recognition of the necessary should not be a restriction, but on the contrary, a help to you. A heroic act is a realization of a necessity. Only through consciousness of utter urgency will you swim across. Because the recognition of the necessary means already half the way to the goal. If one is imbued with a realization of the necessity, then more than half the obstacles in the way will be removed. As long as you act in accordance with the higher plan, you will overcome all difficulties. But if you turn against the current of evolution, of necessity, you cannot succeed. People realize that their heart is aflame. Thus it is, as it were, joined to something unalterable. In conformity with this immutable law, it is possible to pass over the most dangerous abyss. A real master in the art of living makes conscious use of the existing laws in order to achieve his objectives. By his powers of invention and mechanical skill, man is able to take advantage of the divine laws to carry out his purposes. Yet those very powers are powers of the divinity in man, and his success in any field of life depends upon implicit obedience to the divine laws which govern that field. You must obey voluntarily. Obedience under compulsion is of no value. Hierarchy has nothing in common with coercion. It is the law which is disclosed. We oppose any coercion. Agni Yoga strictly rejects any constraint. All compulsion is condemned. Compulsory slavery, compulsory marriage, compulsory labor incites rebellion and condemnation. Each compulsion is doomed to a reaction, and the worst form of compulsion is doomed to the worst reaction. The disciple obeys his master with enthusiasm. Not the process of compulsion, but the smile of summons. The freedom of choice, the free will, must never be restricted. Otherwise, human dignity is violated. The freedom of the will must not be violated. The principle of freedom of approach, freedom of service, freedom of labor must be safeguarded. Agni Yoga rejects any fanaticism. It is a terrible mistake to try to enforce an ideal by force. A man who affirms that in serving his own ideal he must destroy all others, not coinciding with his path, is a destroyer of the fundamentals of evolution. The cosmos requires expression of all that exists, and on the spiritual plane, equalization cannot take place. Leadership there must be, but without any physical or psychical coercion. What is the nature of the Bodhisattva's compassion? Without coercing the will, they invisibly and patiently direct each suitable force toward good. Obedience to God means obedience to yourself, to your own higher self. If you obey, you remain faithful to yourself, to the law hidden within yourself. Then you live out of your true divine nature. Any deviation means betraying yourself, your higher mission. Prove your willingness to serve God by serving the God in each other. If you will do these things, you will be swept on in the flood tide of the White Lodge force to final success. If you will not do these things, you will go down and out of incarnation, the world no better for your having been in it, your opportunities wasted. It is yours to choose. This loyalty is the basis of your progress. Until man can learn to be true to his higher self, true to his plighted words, true to the obligations he is under, He can make no great advance on the ladder of life, no matter what else he may do on other lines to effect such advance. For the foundation stone underneath that ladder is loyalty, and without loyalty, life has no meaning. Then the disciple may win the right to the title of warrior of light. As long as you remain faithful to yourself, you will overcome all difficulties. There is but one virtue which can take a chela over all the obstacles the whole of the Black Lodge may lay in his pathway, and that is faithfulness. The unconditional loyalty to yourself is the guarantee for achieving the highest goal. A man or woman who persists in being true to the higher self, who cannot be deceived by the specious tales of others, that one takes his or her place with the initiates of the White Lodge when his trial is over, as surely as tomorrow's sun will rise in the east. Basically, the spiritual path is about one thing only: to commit yourself to certain principles and to prove yourself by realizing these values in the vicissitudes and trials that life offers every day. The crystal path, the path of the soul direct, requires closer adherence to principle. The greater the principles are to which you have pledged yourself, the higher is your path. To be a human being means to cultivate an ideal and to fight for its realization on earth. If you could at all times remember the great ideals you have loved and longed to materialize in the days that are gone, ideals of courageous, self-sacrificing, noble knights of the Holy Grail, of sweet, womanly, tender and faithful ladies worthy of the love and sacrifice of those knights, of the unselfish, undying devotion, the charity, helpfulness, wisdom and beneficence of the priests and priestesses of the great temples of antiquity, unweariedly pursuing the path, sometimes by fire and flood, in the midst of carnage and blood, through years of martyrdom, on, to the topmost step of the great initiation stair. I repeat, if you could always remember those ideals, remember what they meant to you when you made the first conscious effort to reach to some height of the ladder of self-help, as well as what they have been to you on every upward step you have taken since, through every soul-scorching sorrow or great joy. Would you not be more careful how you debased them, how you dragged them in the mire and mud of a treacherous, unstable, unloving maze of mind? It is really better to die than to be unfaithful to the chosen ideal. The body perishes anyway, whereas damage done to the immortal soul will continue to operate far beyond a short single earthly life. If you give up your ideal, you sell your soul. The failure of man in religious, in business, in social life might all be traced back to their loss of faith in themselves or their ideas, and therefore a similar loss in the case of their associates. He would be conscious of a loss of something in himself that was the mainspring of his action. He would no longer be a magnet to attract success to himself or those associated with him. We therefore need to unconditionally defend our vision. Therefore, it behooves you all to watch closely and protect the qualities in yourselves to which you look for success. Keep your ideals strong and pure, and reject the thoughts and influences which would tend to lower them. Our loyalty must serve especially the Brotherhood of Shambhala. They are in urgent need of co-workers on earth on which they can rely. Accept every instruction with all your heart. Devotion and loyalty are the highest qualities. Only on loyalty one may build upon. Without loyalty, there is no true greatness.